In this tutorial, we're going to use motion to create custom transitions called alpha transitions that can be used in DVD Studio Pro and applied to menus, tracks, slideshows, and buttons. Before we begin building our alpha transition in motion, I think it's helpful to look at how to apply alpha transitions in DVD Studio Pro. Here I have an open project with a menu already placed in the menu editor. Currently, none of the buttons have targets assigned to them. For this demonstration, let's quickly create a target for button 1. I'm going to drag out this submenu and drop it on button 1 and choose Create Submenu and Apply Template. As I mentioned, you can apply transitions to buttons themselves or the menu. If you click on the menu background, you'll notice there's a transition tab in the inspector. If you click on a button, you'll notice there's also a transition tab for the button. This also applies to slideshows and tracks, where each element has their own transition tab in their corresponding inspector window. From the transition drop-down menu, you have your standard transition choices from the list. But if you scroll on toward the bottom, you'll see a special category of transitions called alpha transitions. They're the ones with the tiny alpha symbol next to them. As you may have guessed, alpha transitions use alpha channels. The best way to see this is to apply the satin blue transition. As the blue sheet travels across the screen, the submenu is revealed by the transparency data contained in the alpha transition. Now that you know how to apply the alpha transition, let's look at how to create your own custom alpha transitions using motion. Launch Motion, then from the File menu choose New. You need to choose a DV preset when working in Motion, because DV Studio Pro works natively at 720 by 480. Once your project is open, press Apple II to bring up the library. Rather than create a transition from scratch, you can use one of the many excellent particle emitters that ship with Motion. Click Particle Emitters in the sidebar, then click the Pyro subcategory. Scroll down to locate Explosion, then select it to preview it. Click the Apply button to apply the emitter to the canvas. If you look in the timeline, you'll notice that the explosion is actually much shorter than the project duration, which in this case is 10 seconds. Move your playhead to the end of the emitter, then press Command-Option-O to set an out point. Now press your spacebar to loop the effect. Our next step is to tell Motion where we want the transition point to happen. We'll do this using a marker. Scrub your playhead in the mini timeline to locate the halfway point in the effect. Press F6 to call up the timing pane. Position your mouse cursor above the playhead, then Control or right-click and choose Add Marker. A green marker is added to the playhead position. Now right or Control-click on the marker and choose Edit Marker. In the Edit Marker window, you'll see a drop-down called Type. Currently, it's set for Standard or Standard Marker. We want to set this marker as a DVD Transition Marker. Click the drop-down and choose DVD Alpha Transition. Click OK. In the timing pane, you'll notice that the marker is now labeled DVD Alpha Transition. When we export this movie, this marker will tell DVD Studio Pro when to switch from one element to the other. If you don't like the position of the marker, you can change it by dragging it. This will effectively alter where the transition happens. Let's go ahead and leave it in the center. Our next step is to export this movie. From the File menu, choose Export. Make sure you're exporting a QuickTime movie. Also, in the Export Preset dropdown, make sure and choose Lossless plus Alpha Movie. This is very important because if you don't choose this option, Motion will not export the movie within Alpha Channel. Put a check in the box labeled Use Play Range. Name your movie and save it to your desktop. Before we can use this movie in DVD Studio Pro, we have to do a few things in the Finder. From the File menu, choose New Finder window. Click on your hard drive, then click Library. Then choose Application Support. Then locate DVD Studio Pro. Here are a number of different folders. What's missing is a transition folder. Control right-click and choose New Folder. Name this folder Transitions. You need to create a subfolder within the Transitions folder that has the exact same name as the movie you just exported. Create a new folder inside the Transitions folder and name the folder Explosion. Drag the Explosion movie from your hard drive into the Explosion folder you just created. Now, in order for this to work, you're going to need to quit DVD Studio Pro. So make sure you save your project before quitting. Back in DVD Studio Pro, we can now assign our new alpha transition. Click on the menu background, then click the Transition tab in the inspector. From the Transition drop-down, scroll down to locate your new transition. As you can see here, Explosion now appears in a list. Go ahead and choose it. Click the Preview button to see your transition. Now Control or right-click on the menu background and choose Simulate Menu. And now you see our main menu transition to our submenu vis-a-vis a giant fiery explosion. Thanks for watching.